Welcome back. I'm Connie Sokol, your host, and I am beyond thrilled today. Our 150th episode. Woo-hoo! So excited to be able to have not just been on this podcast episode and program for 150 of them, but being able to have this beautiful guest today. She is near and dear to my heart and to yours. I know she is a favorite, and I'm so thrilled that she could take the time with us today. We have Brooke Walker with us today. Hi, Brooke.
The sweetest 150 episodes. That is amazing.
Can you believe with the left toe and 7 kids? And I'm like, booyah, we can do this.
Yes, because I know you. I can believe it, but that's still a crazy number. That's awesome. That's amazing.
Well, and we are going to talk today about how she actually gave me the confidence and the start in media. So we've got lots of juicies for you today, but I'm first going to give you the official bio because there's a lot of people who know and love and adore you, but they don't know a lot of some of this background stuff. So for those who are coming out of a cave, she is the host and executive producer of Studio 5 with Brooke Walker on Channel 5, and it's fantastic. But you may not know she's also an Emmy award-winning journalist, and she's a member of the KSL News team, which you can see her as an anchor and a reporter quite frequently on there. It's so fantastic. I love her bits. They're just so fun and connecting. But she's still a homegrown Utah gal, and she loves to be connected with her community. In fact, she does a lot with charitable organizations like Operation Smile and Primary Children's Hospital, and that is so her because these kinds of things are near and dear to her heart as well. Another thing that I didn't really know is that prior to doing the whole Studio 5 years and years of this, that she worked for the public affairs department of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So you start to get this picture of how things have sort of played out. But the things that we love so much about Brooke and what makes you feel like she just reaches right through the camera is that she is so connecting and she loves girl time. Well, especially with her 3 sisters, which beautiful relationship that they have. But you feel that way when she's on camera. You feel like you're one of those sisters. You're one of those like girls that she could chat with.
Connie, I'm going to pay you later for all of this. This is so nice.
Is this like how we planned it? Yeah. Okay. She loves to shop, work out, and anything chocolate. Is it any wonder why we love her?
Yeah.
And of course, her most important titles are wife and mother, and her fabulous husband, Mark. He is just a gem. And they are the proud parents of Emmy, Boston, and Lucy. And now number 4.
Number 4. I know 4 under 5. That's good math, right? 4 under 5 years old. That just works out. Oh boy.
There, 4 under 6. And that's why I'm sending you prayers and I'm sending you pillows and blankets and more chocolate.
Yes, please. All of it.
And it's coming soon. And we're going to talk about that in a few minutes too. So stay tuned. But we are going to jump right in to this is the thing that's so fun for me, Brooke, is we've done lunch, we chat, we connect, I come up and I do the episodes and I do my segments. But, we're doing real time. Like there's things that I've wanted to know and it's wriggled in the back of my mind, but you just don't ever go there. Like, they say, oh, your friend, what's your friend's favorite color? And I'm like, I don't know, but I know when she was 7, So this gives me an opportunity to ask some questions that other people want to know and that I want to know.
So because we are quite impressive in our speed of communication. We get a lot in during those commercial breaks. We do.
Oh my heck.
But there's only so much commercial break time, right?
And we make good use of it. I'm always thinking the person that's listening on the other end with our mics on is probably like, wow, that was a Reader's Digest of like 6 months.
They're like, dial down the Diet Coke, ladies. Like, come on. I love you, Connie.
I love you. Oh my gosh. For women out there who don't know, this is season 15 for Studio 5.
Yes.
And we were just reminiscing and talking that I was like, I had just had my daughter. And so I had all my yummy baby fat rolls and I was coming on for the first time. This was 15 years ago. She's going to be 16 in just a couple months.
That's
crazy. And I remember that as clear as a bell. And I remember how nervous I was. And I remember how amazing you were. I still remember that. So let's go back like that Sound of Music to the very beginning, place to start. Let's go back even farther than that for just a half a second. Sure. What even got you into this? Because this is your zone of genius. This is your thing and your realm. What even made you get into this?
You know what? I set out early, like high school early, with this focus on broadcast journalism. And I was actually thinking, you mentioned you kind of wanted to go back to the beginning. I was thinking, what even led me there? And I can say that I had, a family, I had parents who read the newspaper every day and talked about it. And I had grandparents who you'd go over on Sunday night, but you didn't go over during 60 Minutes. So I certainly had family members who were tuned in, and that was always part of it. But I think more than that, it was just this idea of storytelling and people. And that sounds so cliche for any broadcast journalist out there, but I loved stories. I loved getting to know people's stories. And so broadcast journalism became this, I think, natural early target for me. I went to Brigham Young University and set out early on that path of studying that field. And about 2 years in, my dear parents, who I would do the same thing with my own daughter, but they sat me down and they were like, okay, cute girl, pat, pat, pat. Broadcast journalism sounds so fun, doesn't it? Let's talk about a real degree and a real career and something that you can actually do. We know you want to be a mom first. Broadcast journalism, motherhood, those aren't compatible. How many people really make it anyway? I mean, they were just giving me this huge life dose of practical reality. And I don't look back on that and feel bad about that, because they were so right. Like, I would do the same thing to my own daughter, but I held to my guns, and of course they swelled and rallied behind me. And so I wrapped up my time at BYU, and I did a couple of internships. I did one for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in their public affairs department, which, as you mentioned, turned into my first gig there as an associate producer. And I learned a lot about the back end of media, which ultimately was super helpful. And that year that I was with the church, a lot of monumental, events and activities happened that I kind of got a front row seat to see how the planning and execution of that happened. So it was a super big go to school moment. And then I did an internship consecutively while I was working there at KSL, and hustled my bustle. I mean, I worked so hard in those internships and learned so much. And it was super intimidating because KSL is this legendary news station, not just in Utah, but they're known across the country for just their legendary journalism and storytelling. And so I was working alongside the people that I grew up watching as a little girl. So that was intimidating and overwhelming and honoring all at once. But the last day of my internship, I remember I took my old clunky VHS tape, my resume tape is how we did it back in the day. And I went to the big corner office and I showed it to the big boss and said, can you just give me feedback before? I don't really know what I thought I was going to do. I guess, you mail them out all over the country. You hope something lands. Here I am, this Utah girl working at my hometown station and loving it and super connected to family. And I don't know ultimately if I would have taken the big jump. So I'm grateful how this meeting went, but I popped in the VHS and he sat back in his big leather chair, literally feet crossed on the desk, watching my humble little resume tape. And he watched it all the way through, which is so painful, especially in the beginning, to watch, 20 minutes of yourself on camera trying to do your shtick, And he watched it start to finish, and he kind of put his hands behind his head and he said, kid, why don't you just stick around? And I said, okay. And not much was said after that, other than I ran down to the parking garage in my little Toyota Celica and I called my dad and I think I just got a job. And he's like, did he say he was going to pay you? Did he talk money? Because otherwise you're just a forever volunteer. And I could so see him thinking, like, my naive little girl thinks she just but the next day the talk about the paycheck and the talk about the schedule just started to unravel. So here I was, this 21-year-old, like, pinch me, feeling so blessed and lucky and giddy and all of it. And I started out doing field producing for my fellow reporters and colleagues at KSL. So I would go out and do the story, the interview, log the tape, do all the work, hand off my script, and they would step in front of the camera and read my words. And that was awesome practice and, baptism by fire, so to speak, of the world that was KSL and journalism. And slowly, one day, literally somebody got sick and the backup was sick and the backup's backup was sick. And that same boss looked at me and said, kid, can you do it? And I was like, yeah, I can do this. And I stopped in the bathroom to throw up on my way out the door and went and did my first live shot. And it kind of just took off from there. So it really was a whirlwind. And it's one I don't throw around casually or lightheartedly, because I recognize there was timing and aligning of stars and blessings and opportunity that was well beyond what I deserved. But I'm so grateful that it worked out that way.
Oh my word. I'm just soaking all this in and loving it, to see the one thing lead to the next and all of those pieces fall into place. What do you think were some of the things that prepared you for that? You obviously had vision, you had grit, you had tenacity, you had okay, all right, I'll do it. Like, I'll learn it. If I don't know it, I'll figure it out. Were there any other things that prepared you for that? I'm just thinking of young adult women listening that might be going, I want to do what she does. Like, what were some of those things that helped prepared you?
I was never afraid of the grunt work. And I think any industry, you've got to be willing to put in the time. And I think sometimes, especially in a lights and dazzle industry like broadcast, you think, throw me in front of the camera and I'm ready. And I want that big leap and that big shot. But I think even though mine came a little bit earlier than some, I still look back and think, I'm so glad I put in those dues, so to speak, or put in the grunt work. And I was run and grab the salads at lunch girl. I was run and grab the coffee break, you know, for all the other colleagues. I did the grunt work. And I think that those small steps kind of led up to that. And I came from a family that promoted hard work at a young age. I mean, I had my first job at 13. And I, you know, in high school, I had 3 part-time jobs. The hard work, the grunt work, you got to be able to put in those dues, and they pay off. It's not just selfless, like get me to the next step, but it's like, I look back on those lines of study or those lines of education, I think strengthened and enriched my skills so that when the big shock came, I was hopefully a little more strong and prepared.
Absolutely. And I love how you bring that up, that it's line upon line, it's those bit by
Yes.
bit, and all of that back end helps you, I would imagine, with Studio 5 now, and even with BYU TV's Family Rules that you do season 3, you've got that back end knowledge all the way along of these things. So I'm sure that when it came time to help produce the show, you knew all the moving parts, so you can understand how to put those things together. I love that, you know, the life lessons that you're learning at such a young age. Now, you really were young to have all of this hit the ground running. Just a side question, because I was just talking to another young adult gal the other day, and she said she gets so frustrated not being taken seriously because she's young. Did you ever have that to deal with?
Yeah, in fact, I look back on those first few years, and I think I did play a little bit of the imposter syndrome game, where you're like, oh, I don't want people to know that I'm just in an apartment. I'm hosting a lifestyle show, but I'm just renting an apartment. Or, you know, I think I played this big for my britches role for a while. But I think what you realize is pretty quickly that people appreciate you as you, like that. And we hear that all the time, especially now. But that authenticity, I think, is what people ultimately connect with and connect to. So, I mean, there were definitely a couple of years where I was trying to walk the walk and play the part that was a little bit over my head. And I'm grateful that I was able to shake out of that fairly soon and just say, not in an overconfident way, but in a humble way, like, this is me. And, you know, growing in front of the camera is going to be part of my shtick, since I did start so young. And so once I was able to grab hold of that for myself, I think that's when the doors of connectivity really opened up through the screen and with the viewers.
Oh, I love that. And I love your openness to the timing, like the way that you just kind of went to the next. I talk with a lot of women, young and older, who feel like they're so tired of hustle. They're so tired of like forcing things to happen. Now, there's time for work and there's time for go, right? But I feel that there's kind of a shift of, I want to be more open to things rather than I'm going to make them happen, you know, with just this current. And I love how you got in and you did the work. When things came, you got in and did the work. So take us to this place. I mean, you must have been pretty blown away by, wow, this is leading to this and this is leading to this. How did things lead into Studio 5?
Yeah, I blown away or naive, probably a little bit of both. I mean, in fact, it's funny, this conversation is coming at a funny time, because just yesterday, on Sunday, we pulled out, I came across this old DVD of Studio 5 from year 1, where my grandma came and cooked. And I was so eager for my kids to see, you know, my grandma Jo, that they hear me talk about, who's since passed away, in action on the screen. So we popped in this old tape, and it was so painful, Connie. I was like, oh my gosh, like this. And my cute daughter kept saying, Mom, you were so skinny. And I was like, oh, you cute thing. Yes, wasn't I though? Oh yeah, keep talking. And all I could say is, I'm just grateful I still have a job. Like, that first year was just so painful. But what ultimately ended up happening is I took one of my first volunteer opportunities here in Salt Lake for Primary Children's Medical Center, hosting their telethon. And again, it literally was, somebody got sick and the backup got sick, and they came to me and said, could you host this telethon? And I'd never really seen it before. I mean, I knew of it. And so I remember I hollered out at the gal who asked me, who happened to be the programming director at KSL. She said, okay, thanks. She gave me the date and time. She turned around, and I hollered back and said, can I get a copy of last year? Because I thought, I don't even know what I'm stepping into. And she kind of turned around. She goes, no one's ever asked me that before. She goes, sure. And the next day, this little DVD landed on my desk, and I studied that DVD over. I watched the whole telethon, like all 12 hours of it, just trying to get a feel for what it was. And so stepped in front of the camera the next day, next to people who were way more experienced and skilled and smooth than I, and had a lot of fun hosting that telethon. Well, the gal, that program director, a little to my knowledge, was at the same time preparing to launch this lifestyle show for Studio 5. And she came to my newsroom boss at the time and said, what would you think if I screened Brooke Walker for this show. And later I'm told he was like, no, she's not ready. She's so green. She's so young, all of which is so true. Like,
Right.
so true. But this woman just took a chance on me and invited me for a screen test. And for me, it was like, what the heck? Shrug the shoulders, nothing to lose. Okay. Yeah. And I went in and did this screen test, and literally, I mean, they were within weeks of hiring. So it all happened so fast. And looking back, I mean, it really was kind of a naive state of mind. I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. I was so young and inexperienced, and it was way over my head. And a lot of times advice I give other young women is be measured in the leaps you take. Like, I sometimes think we try to overreach sometimes, and we set ourselves up on the wrong end. Like we're not quite ready for that. So just, it's saying yes to the right things that you're ready for, that are a little bit level up, but not a huge level up. I clearly didn't take my own advice because I was not ready. I was not, and I'm grateful now that I was so naive, I guess, to just jump in the deep end and say, okay. But we launched the show like 3 months later, and here we are 15 years later. And so I guess sometimes those bigger naive leaps pay off.
Absolutely. Well, and it sounds like, I always say yes to your soul, so that even when
Oh, I
you
love
don't,
that.
you don't think you're ready, but, and all the studies show that women tend to, mercilessly think that they are less prepared and they're less
Yeah.
capable than they really are. And men overthink that they are, and they overestimate that they are prepared. And so I do think it is good when, like you said, you want to be thoughtful about it, because you don't want to just
Sure.
go, oh yeah, sure. But it sounds like your soul told you, yeah, this is good. Like, it felt good. It feels like a good thing, even though there's part excitement, part fear. I always say, if you're a little bit scared, a little bit excited, it's a good thing. So yeah,
Say yes to your soul. I love that.
I love that. So were you involved in the early planning, or were you just like the host and they just said, come on in, or did you get to be in the mix of anything yet?
I kind of stepped in when the show was already, the wheels were already in motion. But I was brought on as a host and producer, meaning I was rolling up my sleeves and still actively, booking guests and shaping segments and topics. And I don't know how helpful I was at 21, but you learn really fast. And KSL was quick early on to bring in a lot of, heavyweight consultants to tell us how they thought this show should go. And it was very new to our market at the time. And I look back and, some of those consultants, quote unquote, expert advice didn't play out for us. And so I was able to get that front row seat to the shaping of this show early, in that we learned to say no to things that we knew weren't true to us or true to our audience. I remember when one fancy schmancy consultant from New York early on told us that the Hollywood headlines are where it's at, that people want the sleaze, they want the buzz. At the time, I think Jen Aniston and Brad Pitt were breaking up, and the consultant used that as an example and said, that's what real women want to talk about. And even back then, at my young, humble 21, I was like, I don't know if that's what our viewers want to talk about. I mean, we recognized that people who were giving us an hour of their time wanted a little bit more. They wanted substance, they wanted value. And I'm grateful to Michelle Torsak, that original program director and founder of Studio 5, because she saw that early too. And so watching her, I think, navigate the no's as well as the yeses empowered me to find my voice in that direction. So she was quick to say to that consultant, you know what, that's not our audience. We know that. And early on, we kind of carved out a niche that I think, has served us down the road, that we went for more value and substance and meaning and more everyday solutions, as opposed to the trivial surface, and other shows do it well. And that's great. There's a place for it. There's totally a place for it. But we recognized early that wasn't our place, and we held to that.
Oh, that is just fantastic. And yes, it has served so well 15 seasons later. And can I just take a side reminiscent moment of validating that? Because I remember when I came out, oh my gosh, and talk about painful. I have a DVD of my first thing. It's like, I couldn't watch it after like a minute or two. I was like, I can't do this. But I remember, oh my gosh, I didn't know anything. Only I was verbal about opinions when I shouldn't have been. And I remember Michelle, who was a love and a half, and she was saying, how do you see the segment going for you? And I was like, well, I could start out on this side of the set, and then I could move over here to the other side, and then I could do a third thing. The people that are listening, it's a 6 to 7 minute segment. You don't even have time to speak, never mind move. And
Honey, I don't know, that choreography sounds Oscar winning. That sounds good.
Did sequence, more sequence and moves while I did it. I mean, and you know what I remember? I remember her graciousness of saying, you know what, we haven't considered that, but if you feel strongly about it, I will never forget that, because it didn't take me long to figure out. I knew nothing, and this was ridiculous, and we didn't do it. But I said, well, no, let's just do what, oh wow, why don't we do what you have done that works successfully? But that's
so good.
The people in this, let's talk for that a second. How have you had Stephanie Bryson, senior producer?
Yes.
She's been there forever. Like, how have you gathered and what's been like of these predominantly women, right, in your
Yeah,
group?
all women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
how has that been? Because sometimes, I mean, I work with women and I love it. And there can be some challenges with different personalities, especially strong personalities together.
Mhm.
What has been some of the cool things that you've learned or the benefits that you've been like, oh, these are the things that have been wonderful about working together?
Well, we have a really unique group of women. I have to say that. I mean, in this industry, especially, women are known for being a little cutthroat, a little climb the
Mm,
ladder, give me the next ring, I'm ready to grab it. And for that reason, there isn't a solid, stable environment because people are always looking to progress personally. We've been with I've worked with some of the same team members for like 12, 13 years. I mean, we don't have a lot of turnover. It's a unique environment in that we all represent different ages, stages, beliefs, religions, whatever. We all come together in this kind of melting pot of a producing group. And that has been honestly the greatest gift of that this show has given me is the chance to collaborate and link arms with wonderful women. And it's not just the producers, but the guests too. And I think early on we recognize, and women are talented in so many ways, but when a woman is there for someone other than herself, like you feel it, you sense it, you see it. And it's not that women who, come on the show, we hope they gain something personally, right? As they give their time and their talents. That's always our goal too. But I think the ones that have stuck around and the ones the viewers have resonated with the most are the ones that show up for reasons other than themselves. And you feel that like you do from the beginning. And so over 15 years, a lot of the same guests are still with us. Like Connie, we're so glad you, for that reason, you epitomize what I just described. Like you show up for women every day. You show up with something to share and to give. And I could go down a long list of names of people who fit that same mold, and they've been with us for a long time. And I think that just speaks to, again, that authenticity and that genuine, heart approach that when women lead with, we win. Like we win when we're able to put our most genuine heart forward, and we win when we're able to stop, putting ourselves at the front of that thought line. And so I look at all the women I'm surrounded with, both behind the scenes and in front of the camera, and just feel it's like pinch me. I just can't believe I get to hang out with these gals every day. It's honestly the greatest gift this show has given me.
oh my gosh. I feel, oh, everything you're saying is just, I'm screaming, yes, 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 because I look at the contributors. I love them. They're like friends. And
Yeah.
I love that you guys identified your audience, and that's such a big thing recently of, niche down and da da da. And you guys did that early. You
Yeah.
knew your audience and you have given them value content. And I tell everyone I meet, this show is the kind of thing you can have on with your kids running around. You can do laundry to it. You can actually sit and you laugh, you cry, you engage, you can sit back and be thoughtful. It is that kind of a show. And to do that day in and day out for 15 years, that is huge. That is no small feat. Now,
Oh,
personally, I want to kind of segue for a second because
yeah.
I don't know if you still do it, but for a while you were going back to New York for a week. I know,
Yeah.
pre-COVID, but you'd go back and do Today Show and you go on Rachel Ray and all those big
Yeah.
shows. And you had this opportunity to go back in the big town, and see what
Yeah.
it's like. So first of all, what did you learn from that? And second of all, has that ever been an enticement, ever a draw for you? Because people I'm sure have asked you that, like, hey, you've got
Yeah.
incredible talent. So
Oh,
what was that like for you being back there? And anything that you learned from that? And then what's that been like for you?
yeah. I mean, obviously super fun to do those press junkets or those press tours. And I averaged about 2 a year, up until 5 years ago when I had my first baby, and I haven't gone on one since. Life really shifted for me then, purposefully and unregrettably. But I look back at those trips, and it was cool for, a humble, small town, Northern Utah gal to be able to experience that. But I think early on, I quickly realized like that wasn't my lane. That wasn't my, and I really only had, and I'm not just saying this, I really only had one, semi flattering big opportunity early on to consider a market jump. And it was an easy no. It was an easy, at the time I was single. And so the idea of I'm really close to my family, and I realize this is going to sound so Hallmark cheesy, but I realized that home is home for me, and the chance to do what I love at home is better than any, big town glitzy offer that could have ever crossed my desk. And so I am grateful I recognized that early. At the same time, so fun. I mean, so fun to walk the halls of Jimmy Fallon or Law and Order SVU or Rachel Ray, and to learn from these best of the besters. And I think I did take things home that inspired me to dig in and do better here. But for me, home was always where I knew that I would be. And so I'm grateful that there has been a place for me here at home, because I just feel like this is where I wanna land.
Oh, and you feel that from you. And I think that's so important for the women listening, that sometimes when they feel like they've made the choices, I've talked to a lot of women over the years that they've left their degrees or they've left, career places so that they can have children and focus on being at home, that there are moments that they go, did I do the right thing? And they have that yearning, like, oh, I could have been kind of thing. But I remember for myself having that same kind of thing. I was invited to a press tour in New York, and it was going to be great and amazing. And I turned it down because I just felt like my kids need me right now in this way. And I'm like you,
Yeah.
really careful about that. And I remember one night reading a book to my little guy, and it was, I knew that was when they were getting on the plane and they were leaving. And I just had this moment thought that came to me, and I was reading a book with him, and I was like, this is where I need to be. This is exactly where I need to be. And there was no, like you said, that there's no like, oh, but if only I could. There's an actual joy of, I get to do both. I get to have family and get to put my foot in here and be able to do both.
Yeah, there was a moment about, let's see, it was 4 or 5 years ago, and a documentary I had worked with the team on was up for a regional Emmy, which is a really big deal in our circle. And I realized pretty quickly that the awards ceremony, the fancy schmancy, it's kind of a low key version of what you see on TV, but it's the tuxes and the sequins, and you're in a ballroom and you're walking up and giving acceptance speeches. And as I say, it sounds very self-gratuitous, doesn't it? But anyway, it's kind of a big deal. And I remember that I really realizing the ceremony was landing on this weekend, that my husband had planned this really, to him, important and valuable legacy fishing trip with his grandpa. And my family was out of town. And I just was realizing really quickly the stars weren't lining up. And so and it was hard at the time. I was like, darn, this is the first time I've been up for this acknowledgement. And I want to be there with my team in my fancy dress in a hotel in Scottsdale, Arizona. And for a minute, it was kind of a bummer. And I was like, no, this is, where I want to be. And literally similarly to you, knowing the plane was taking off right as you were reading and cuddling with your little boy, right when the awards banquet was happening, I was not in my glitzy dress, but I was in my coziest pajamas, and we were cuddled up, me and Emmy, who was like 3 at the time, on the couch. We were watching Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, and I kid you not, right about the same time when my team was going up to collect that gold statue was when it hit me that I was watching an episode called Mickey and the Golden Boo Boo. And they were on a hunt for a golden statue, right, throughout Mickey Mouse Land. And I just laughed. I thought, oh my gosh, like how, God winked, how funny was that? And it just cemented that I was where I needed to be and where I wanted to be. And so they got the real golden statue in Arizona in their tuxes. And I was home with my prize, my Emmy, my own Emmy, literally in my arms, and watching Mickey Mouse and the Golden Boo Boo. So it just, it comes full circle. And I don't have, I was grateful. I was grateful to know that that's where I was supposed to be.
Oh, my heart. I've got goosebumps up and down my arms, and how beautifully that worked out. I've got my own Emmy. Oh my gosh, literally and figuratively. That is so beautiful. So speaking of children, let's segue just a little bit. How have you navigated this? That was a big shift, I'm sure, going from, I can just kind of control my time and I can give as much as I need to give. And then, okay, now I have this child, this being that needs me.
Yes.
And I know we talked about it, like we go into the dressing room and you're like, pumping and stuff like that. I mean, like,
Connie's walked in as I'm putting on my TV makeup, pumping. We're women here. We can say it. I've got my nursing cloak, so glamorous, and I'm pumping as I'm putting on my TV face. Come on, that's how it goes down.
It was perfect. I was like, I'm not going to take a picture, but I wish I could, because this is so symbolic of how we women roll. It's that Ginger Rogers. I did everything he did backwards and he healed, right?
Totally.
So what are some things that you've learned about, I know women listening are like, how can I do this better, where I can navigate both home and where my heart is, and also being a mom, and my heart is helping others too. So how do I navigate this without guilt, without shame, but with, confidence and alignment in what I know I'm to do?
You get really good at saying no. I think that's not a secret anymore. We know that. Women know we need to practice that word and get better at it. And it becomes a gift to ourselves when we're able to say no, we're able to say yes to the right things. I think early on, my mom, and I don't even know if she meant this to be kind of a legendary phrase that I would hang on to forever, but early on, I think Emmy had just been born, or I was going back to work, or some transition after my maternity leave with her. But my mom said, just be sure to save your most important energy for the people who matter most. And that has just been stamped on my heart from the beginning. So when I'm sitting there looking at my schedule and someone's saying, can you do a meeting at 11:30? And I'm thinking, well, preschool pickups at 11:30. It's not that I always can make it work perfectly, but I think of those words often, like, am I giving my best energy to the people that matter most, who do fill the best role in my life? So I think of that often. And then also early on, I had the chance to learn from a woman named Neil Marriott. She was a counselor in the General Young Women's Presidency for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And she was asked the question about balance. We were kind of in an intimate kind of luncheon setting. And I believe she had just published a book, Seek Ye This Jesus, or it was something to that effect. But it was a lovely tribute to the life of Christ and how as women we can emulate that in our own lives. And so she took a Q&A from this audience, and somebody asked her about balance, which at the time I've been asked that question a lot myself and didn't feel like I had a super smooth answer. I always felt a little clunky. And of course there's that cliche, oh, there's no such thing as balance. And we know that, but we can't quite really articulate why and what it looks like and what it is. And I thought Neil Marriott hit it on the head when she said, and I'm paraphrasing here, but something to the effect of, that when she pictures balance, like the balance that women are trying to lead in their lives, she pictures one of those old fashioned like chain and scale, chain and plate scales that goes back and forth and kind of shifts. Like if you think of the, the hands of justice type of a scale. Yes. And she said, when I think of balance, I picture that in my head, and what's on one side, maybe worthy and important, like service or work or, whatever it is, that's an important weight. She goes, but then you put the weight of family on that other plate, and it just goes kaboom, and it just shifts. And she goes, so really that's my balance. Like if you're going to look at my scale, that's what it's going to look like. That's my balance. And that was so validating to me, that it's never going to feel even. It's never going to feel, smooth. It's if you're doing it right, you're always going to tip to the people who matter most or the things that matter most. And so a combination, I think all of those pieces of advice have helped shape my own opinion on the idea. And I recognize I'm in a fortunate situation where I have a little bit of control and flexibility over when I'm in the studio and when I'm not. And that no word is a little easier for me to say than it may be for, other women and other obligations, responsibilities, and careers. So I'm sensitive to that. But I think as long as you really are picturing that scale and it's balanced for you and you're honoring that and being true to that, then you're always going to feel at balance with yourself. And that's what it's really about for me, is if I feel balanced on the inside. And again, my balance isn't even, it's definitely a scale couture with family and preschool pickup and Chick-fil-A and Mickey Mouse is on one side right now. And it'll shift and it'll change and I'll adjust, but that internal balance is what I always try to be true to and honor.
So beautiful and so perfectly put. And I think you bring up so many good points. I think women are learning better across the board that no is okay. I think we tend to want to try, as people pleasers, try to get in and just show that we can make it work and we are equal to the task and we can do whatever. And that it's not a less than thing to say no, that you are being intentional about what you want to put your energy to. And I love that at balance with yourself, and balance is not even. That is fantastic. And I think what you're saying is so empowering to women listening, because they may not realize how ready people are to say yes. I know that when I talked with you guys about how often I could do a segment or what days were best for me, or even with COVID, I think COVID has been a blessing in the sense that people realize they can be more flexible than they thought, and they can find a variety of ways to do it. So for women listening, I love that you are sharing that there's a variety of ways to work it, and you don't have to just say a flat out yes, no, but you can also say, I could do this. And that's the way that you've done it. You've been able to put time and energy and focus onto the things that you have to do, or that absolute must, and then be able to be flexible with the others.
I've started to say in emails lately, we have our go-to catchphrases, and two that I reach for quite often lately are: one, my plate is just as full as I'd like it to be. Or when I do want to say yes, and I do want to make it work, I'll say, this is what will fit on my plate right now. And women respond to that. Like women get that. Every woman's looking at her own plate and trying to fill it just so, trying to make sure it has the equal stack of proteins, carbs, and most importantly, dessert, right? We know what that management looks like. And so those are two phrases I reach for lately. And I just find women are really responsive and understanding of that. Men too.
Exactly. And I think that works. I think men really appreciate particularly that you're being clear and not indecisive, and they don't know. I love that you're giving women these empowering phrases, because that works for carpool. It works for PTA. It works for all of those things, to say, what works for me, or right now, what I can do is 2 hours a week. Do you have that space? Is that going to work for you? Right. Where we can be clear about who we are. I love that. So as we talked about, like navigating, now you're going to have baby number 4 in a matter of a couple of weeks. Holy cow. how is this shifting what you're doing now and what's ahead? I mean, you've got this beautiful Family Rules TV show that is fantastic, and
Yeah.
you've got some podcast things in the work. You've got Studio 5. How does this feel for you? What do you feel like with this new baby coming? What transitions, what kind of things are you looking at?
Oh, Mark and I were just talking about this the other day because I feel like with every baby, there's been some sort of a personal life shift, like in the sense that someone gets out of diapers or someone goes from a car seat to a, the little silly trivial things. And he looked at me, he's like, so where's the shift? Like, when is it going to lighten up before this baby comes? Because we haven't quite felt, it's still a little bit, chaotic right now. But I think that's one of those things I don't feel like I can predict or control, but
Mm.
as it comes, you kind of adjust. And again, it goes back to being able to, vocalize your needs and your family's needs in a way that's kind and gracious, but also affirming to, what you've committed on the personal side. But it's kind of a wait and see, Connie. I don't have a good answer for that. I need you on speed dial so I can have all the good advice and the good scoops, but we're kind
All
of
the
just going to
mistakes.
take this one as it comes. And I
Mm.
think I've fortunately been able to time things out with the various projects. And again, people have been so respectful and understanding of my priorities and what matters. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, I mean, call me in a week and maybe I'll have a different story. But right now I'm just a Pollyanna optimistic that some shift will happen that will make baby 4 just fit into this puzzle nicely.
I think that's actually very Zen, the way that you're going about it. And in fact, Dr. Dispenza,
Yeah,
neuroscientist,
yeah.
global thought leader, I think that's exactly what he would say is open up to the possibilities, the quantum
I mean,
physics, infinite
whatever.
possibilities, right?
Yeah.
And you know that you've already got these beautiful things in place. You've got your values, you've got your rhythms, you've got your routines, and you've been willing to shift and adapt, but keep those things solid. So it's just another up leveling of that. And I think that's beautiful. I would love to, I know we're kind of coming down to the home stretch here, but I would love to get just a couple of personal insights. So
Sure.
this 15 seasons, Studio 5 and executive producer, I mean, all the changes and the things and just all the things.
Yeah.
What would you say is one, it's hard. I know it's like talking about one of your favorite children, right? Or one of your favorite experiences with one of your favorite children, but
Mm,
because there are no favorites, but
yeah.
think about, with Studio 5, there's the producing, there's the content, there's the fans, there's the wonderful things that you've been able to do on so many different levels. Is there a favorite piece for you that it's like, this is I love this piece?
I've always loved the girlfriend heart to heart conversations. And I recognize that between that and the family oriented topics that we're able to tackle, it's so rare in this industry to be able to say, you know what, every day I sit down and I talk about and promote family, which to me is the most important thing. That's so rare and that's not lost on me. And I think also the fact that, we joke about it only being a 6-minute segment on TV, that's actually a lot of time. And so I'm grateful that, again, I have this space where I can sit down and I feel like have at least enough minutes in our segment to crack open what I hope is real girlfriend conversation. Those 2 points of the show and of my career it's just not lost on me that that's rare and unique, and I'm grateful for that gift. I think also the thing that I've been reflecting on this year and this season with Studio 5 is that you talk about your daughter being a newborn and now she's 16, and that's the case with so many of our contributors, and that's the case with our viewers. It hit me hard right before we launched season 15 that these women, oh my gosh, here come the pregnancy hormones, where's my tissue, but these women have grown with us. Like the moms that started watching Studio 5 are now nanas and their grandmas. And so to be able to, walk along step and hopefully link arms with these women through the screen who have experienced these progressions. I mean, it sounds so Hallmark, but it's such a beautiful thing to, as women, be front row observers to each other's progress and changes and experiences and growth. And so I felt that these last 15 years, and I'm better for it watching, these women and these contributors and these viewers. I mean, we've kind of it's been this swell of growth together, and that's been super inspiring to me. So I mean, slap me on a Hallmark card, Connie, but that's what it hit me this season that, we're now talking to nanas and grandmas who are in the richest stage of their life and who are leaving a legacy all their own. And that's an honor. That's an honor and a privilege that I think I just want to treasure, no matter how long it goes. And I hope it goes, 10 more years, but I just, that hit me hard this season.
Oh, I'm in tears. I feel that, it's like you said, it is such a gift that you bring such value-based content, and you have been a steady beat all the way through with this value-based content, with a safe space to turn to, with really helpful, useful advice and life wisdom and go-tos,
Wow.
and how much the show has blessed so many people's lives without you maybe even knowing. And I know you guys know, but
No,
to really know that, and like you said, the connections that have been made, those early decisions were huge. That mattered, and that really cemented the path, and drew and continues to draw the kind of people that want this kind of stuff. And it just keeps perpetuating this beautiful
I
cycle.
hope so. Well, it's not me. It's people
Thrilling.
like you. It's guests like you. It's producers. I just feel like I have a front row seat to life's greatest PhD course. Like I'm just sitting there laughing it up and learning, women like you, and I'm not just saying this, but have made me better. Like there's just a power in women who are willing to share and again, crack open our hearts for a selfless reason and lift each other up along the way. So I'm the beneficiary of that. I feel that. I feel that every day.
It's such a gift. Can you feel this? I mean, I bet women listening are like, I just want to come over and see Brooke. We all feel that
No,
way. And you have that gift of being able to just pull
you're so
people right
kind.
through the lens and make you want to just all put pajamas on.
No, thank
In
you.
closing, I'm just so loath to end this conversation. I'm
No,
loving this and just soaking in this.
you're a doll.
And again, I'm not trying to embarrass poor Brooke. She is just going to slap me upside the head after, I'm sure.
No,
But the love and the genuine authenticity that you have been able to retain, like you said, in such an
no,
industry,
thank you, Connie.
surrounded by good people, promoting good content, all of this matters. And for people listening, this is the Purpose Filled Life podcast, and we talk about how do you find and fulfill your purpose, right? And there's lots of them. So how do we do that? And how do we be a mom and keep what matters most, first? And for those listening and listening to how you have done this path, is there one piece of advice that you would give to women listening for them that want to find and fulfill their purpose? There's so many pieces to it, and so many women get stressed about it, or they just avoid it, or they're like worried by it or afraid of it or whatever. Is there one piece of advice that you would give to someone who is seeking that right now, to know what is their purpose and how to fulfill it?
What's coming to my mind might not be the most inspiring answer, but it's what is hitting my heart in the moment. So I'll share. I find great value in asking ourselves the honest questions. And I think as women, it's easy to get caught up in a lot of well-intended interests and goals, right? Like I'm going to go serve because of this reason, or I'm going to pursue a career because of this reason, or I'm going to chase a project because of this reason. I think, especially with social media getting the outward facing attention that it does, we see all these women doing incredible things, getting all these likes and accolades for things that we might be doing in the privacy of our own home and just not getting the strokes for it or the validation. I sometimes worry that as women, we're getting a little swept up in the noise right now. And so I find great peace and grounding comfort for myself in asking myself the honest questions, such as, why do I really want to do this project? Why do I really want to say yes to this opportunity? Why am I really stepping up to serve? Because I think ultimately, our personal fulfillment is going to come from doing it for the right reasons. And again, there's nothing wrong with, sharing those gifts. We should be sharing our gifts and sharing our talents and scattering that like confetti. But I think we've got to be true to ourselves. I remember early on, I had a colleague who I love, admire, and respect say to me, well, I'm sure you feel the same way, but I work so that my daughter can see a strong, capable woman fulfilling, my dreams and my ambitions. And I want my daughter to see that. And that's why I work. And that's great for her. And I remember thinking, but my daughter can see that when I'm at home. My daughter can see that when I'm making dinner or doing dishes or, serving my neighbor or making a meal for the woman down the street who just had a baby or whatever it is. My daughter can see all of those things within the walls of our own home. So I don't want us to kid ourselves and think just because we aren't doing it out there, it's not mattering or it's not counting. And I think about that a lot. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because of the social media swell we're experiencing, but I just hope every woman can ask herself the honest questions that will give you the ground and the strength to say, this is why I'm doing it. And so no matter the noise that surrounds it or the attention I get for doing it, this is what I'm rooted in. This is why. And that gives meaning and purpose to any project or job or career or service, whatever it is, that purpose needs to come from within. So those honest questions, I think, help point us to that purpose and that passion in a way that will last and will sustain us. If that makes any sense. That's what came to my mind and my heart when you asked that question.
Oh, right to my soul. I know the women listening are feeling that. I think that was like one of those Neil F. Marriott answers where it just leveled that question and just made it crystal clear. It's asking the honest why, because you're right. That's why at the end of the day, after 15 years, you are still authentic, able to do this with a loving family and that we don't you know, there's so many things in situations we don't control. We got that. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is that you are happy, you are grounded, you are peaceful, and you have created the things that mattered most to you, no matter what's come and gone and whatever's happened. And I think that's what's key for women to understand, that in a finding and fulfilling of a purpose, it doesn't have to be out there. It doesn't have to be 200,000 likes and selling a Swiffer. It
Yeah.
means that at the end of the day, that you feel that confidence, that clarity, and that fulfillment, that you go, I know I'm where I'm supposed to be, no matter
Yes.
what that looks like.
What
Oh,
she said. See, Connie, you just gave my heart thought words. That's why you're a prolific author and friend and life coach and all that you are. What she said. Ditto.
can
Amen.
can we just say, like, I'm going to be listening to this and re-listening to all of your incredible words.
Oh,
Ladies, I love and adore you. And I'm so grateful you joined us for this amazing interview with sweet Brooke Walker. I'm going to very quickly recap a couple of things that she said because they were so fantastic. She said she would never be afraid of the grunt work. It's do take the seat. Oh, we didn't talk about take the seat, but I want to talk about take the seat. Say yes to the soul and watch how mentors navigate the no's. That was so good. Save your most important energy for those who matter most. Balance is not even. Be at balance with yourself. And then I can't even read the next thing because my writing is so horrible. I was listening so good. And I love the phrases. This is what fit on my plate right now. Take it as it comes. And then ask yourself the honest questions, which led me to think, what's the honest why? Absolutely love this today. Brooke, you are incredible. If people want to reach you and find you, where's the easiest, best place?
oh, Connie, you're great. I'm on Instagram, Brooke Walker on Instagram, and then Studio 5 on our website, studio5.ksl.com, and Family Rules on BYU TV. You can catch through their website too, byutv.org/family rules. So there's my landing zones.
Fantastic. And every single bit that she is involved in, as you well know, is worth watching. It's so
Thank you.
fantastic. Brooke, my heart to you. I love you. And good
Oh,
luck with
what an
baby number
honor.
4 coming
Thank
through really
you.
quickly. What's the scoops on the name? We know it's a girl, but we know that it's not going to be Boston's suggestion of baby Butch. So I'm thinking that's a no.
Yeah.
But
Well, Boston wanted to name her Butch. So
yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. We've moved past that. I'm married to an analyst who just last weekend was so frustrated we couldn't land on a short list that he downloaded the top 1,000 baby names, and then he whittled it down to 100, handed me the list. I whittled it down to 10. We're in a ranking system now, Connie. This is how my husband's brain works. I'm so grateful. I love him for it. And I think we've now come down to the top 7. So I'll send you the text. You can give me your vote. We'll calculate we'll calibrate your score into the pool. And hopefully after I'm done bouncing on a yoga ball here in the next 24 hours, this little lady will have a name. That's my process.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Our prayers and our love are with you.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Brooke. Good
Love
luck
you,
with
Connie.
everything.
Thank you.
Mwah. And as always, if you love this content, rate and review below, subscribe. And if you want our downloads or freebies, information on our women's retreats and all the goodies, go to conniesokol.com. Remember, we are here to help you live your purpose-filled life.
You are so good at this, which I already knew.
Thanks for watching. As always, hit that like button, click on that bell to get some future videos right into your inbox. And if you want all the other goodies like podcasts, best-selling books, results-getting programs, and all that jazz, then go to conniesokol.com. I got lots of goodies there for you. And if you want to connect on social media, I'm on all platforms, so join me there because I want to connect with you right now and help you step into your purpose-filled life.